What does it mean to be the most subscribed channel on YouTube? Amongst other things, it means your content reflects the tastes of a bigger percentage of the YouTube user base than any other channel. With 122 million daily users, YouTube has become the global mainstream entertainment platform. As a result, the most successful YouTube channels are the ones that have embraced these mainstream tropes and ideals. Mr. Beast, for instance, boasts a production quality and budget bigger than most television shows. Back in the mid-2000s, YouTube's total audience was only a fraction of the size it is today. Back then, only kids, teenagers, and tech-literate adults frequented the platform. Because of this, the collective appetite of the platform was different. It was certainly less professional. And that's how we ended up with... Hey, it's Fred! Remember that guy? If not, you just had the pleasure of meeting Fred, a cool character that Nebraska teen Lucas Cruikshank created in his bedroom. I don't know why people feel the need to stress the point when a piece of content was made in someone's bedroom. When it comes to making something, the bedroom seems to be the only room in the house that ever gets any credit. It's as if the act of creation is much harder and therefore more deserving when it's done in a bedroom. But that doesn't make much sense. If it were me, I would have only felt the need to stress the location if, like he made it in a cupboard. The location in which Lucas Cruikshank created the series seems of even less relevance when you consider the quality. If it was really superb quality, then yeah, stressing the fact he made it in his bedroom and not some Hollywood studio would make more sense. But as it is, with content looking like this, saying he made it in his bedroom just feels like unnecessarily stating the obvious. Yeah, like no shit he made it in his bedroom. I can see his bedsheets. The series Fred was YouTube's first example of how virality will wrap itself around a person like a cocoon, out of which emerges a celebrity. It really was like a positive feedback loop. Audiences couldn't work out why so many people were watching this content, which led to more people watching the content, which led to audiences not understanding why so many people were watching the content. And that's because Fred was polarizing. Everyone that knew of him had an opinion. It became popular to love and hate him. Because in the YouTube game, having a strong opinion either which way gets you more views than being ambivalent. Nowhere was this best evidenced than in a video titled YouTubers React to Fred. One half of the interviewees are too cool for Fred and take the easy option of ripping into him, whereas the other half of the interviewees lean into the content and opine how much they love him. I would hazard a guess though that the YouTubers that claimed to hate him didn't really hate him as much as they said they did, and likewise the interviewees that said they loved him didn't love him as much as they said they did.
I just remember it was so funny that I made like my little sister watch it and my mom watch it and my older sister watch it and my dad watch it.
Have you ever heard such shit in your life? She told her dad to watch it. I can't believe that anyone in their right mind has ever taken their dad to one side and said, "Dad, buckle up because you're about to watch some of the funniest stuff ever released to YouTube." God forbid I were to have shown my own dad Fred's videos. We wouldn't be on speaking terms. Probably because he would have had me sectioned. And by the way, that's not to say he would have hated Lucas Cruikshank's videos on a fundamental level. I think he would have been level-headed enough to appreciate that the content was intended for someone a little bit younger than him. Let's put it like this. Lucas Cruikshank would be the first to admit that his main demographic isn't dads. And that's why my dad's anger would have been directed at me for wasting his time. Of course, some people got properly riled up by Fred. But in those instances, the venom surely came from a belief that Lucas Cruikshank had been the recipient of more views and attention than he deserved. Put simply, people were jealous. They couldn't believe that they were receiving way less views than this high-pitched, humourless kid. But what these miserable bastards forgot were that YouTube's audience was mainly made up of high-pitched, humourless kids. But that didn't change the fact that all Fred's competitors saw were views. Lots and lots of views. Clearly, this affected the way in which people perceived Fred. They thought, why are so many people watching this? This is where their anger came from. It would be a different story if they were watching the same video, but it only had 30 views. So in that case, they'd watch it and think, fuck, this is great, I need to go show my dad. Fred taught content creators a valuable lesson. It really was one of the first times people learnt about the powerful force of children on the internet. After all, it was, and still is, kids that have all the free time. They're the ones that are consuming all the content. For this reason, I would say that the success of Fred is a classic case of being in the right place at the right time. Conditions of the platform were set up in such a way that easy, brainless humour like Fred rose to the surface. Like all things, Fred was a temporary phenomenon. Which is why I think it's funny that journalist Ariano Quiano thinks that Fred is going to endure like an element on the periodic table. In her article for a website called Study Breaks, Quiano says, regardless of the Fred YouTube channel's inactivity, the titular character will remain a figure the world will never forget. Sure, when it comes to the history of YouTube, Fred will certainly get a mention. He was the first channel to surpass 1 million subscribers, but to say that the world will never forget him is one of the craziest examples of hyperbole I've ever seen. Presumably at one point, the world is going to forget Jesus. Jesus. He's one of the most famous people around. I'd say more famous than Fred. But apparently, Fred is the one who's going to endure. We've all seen what happens when the world is faced with calamity. In the early days of COVID, people forgot how much toilet paper they needed to wipe their arse. So if there ever was a bigger, more apocalyptic event, how long do you really think it's going to take before we forget Fred Figglehorn? When you're left with no choice but to murder your neighbours to feed your family, are we really going to be remembering Lucas Cruikshank's bedroom creation? Probably not. Bye-bye.